So I've been wanting to do this mold for a little while. So it's a little kind of vase of a stand. So this is a stand. This bit would then, by rights, stand in there. Then these little rings would sit in between, act like a little vase essentially. So I'm thinking I've got out this GR Plus metallic purple, which I'll be using. I'll be using this Lamino green called Kiwi. I'll tend to, if I remember to, whenever I use my alcohol inks or whatever, I'll kind of tape on so I can see the actual colours. And some purple flakes. So the plan is, base round the edge will be clear with the purple flake, and then I'll pour in the green in the middle so that obviously the green will kind of push it out, the purple will come in, purple flakes will come in, blend a little bit but still be you know, definition between the clear and the purple flakes and the green. Down here I will be doing green. I'll probably do the clear with the purple flakes in here, and then the butterflies I'm going to be pouring in the metallic purple. And again, I'm imagining they will kind of run and combine a little bit, but hopefully not too much, just enough where it actually looks really nice. I probably shouldn't try and describe what I'm hoping for at the start, because if it turns out an absolute disaster and nothing like what I wanted, but still looks okay, I can pretend like that was what I wanted the whole time. But we will see how it goes. So I will go and get some resin mixed up. Okay, so I've mixed up about 300 milliliters of resin at this point. It's about 11 ounces, and I've split it into 3 different cups, obviously, because I've got 3 different, I've got 2 different colours, and then I've got the purple flakes. So I'm going to start with the green. I have given this a good shake beforehand. Make sure you do that with alcohol inks. So I'm just going to start by popping in a few drops at a time, giving it a stir, and checking if I'm happy with the colour. This is an alcohol ink, so it is going to be translucent, which is what I want in this case. But you don't want it to be too translucent, dependent on the look that you're going for. Now, you always need to keep in mind as well that the deeper the resin is in your cup, the darker that colour is going to look. So the colour that you see in my cup right now, that is not going to be the colour at this point that you would see in the mould if I poured it now, because that mould is really quite shallow. So if you wanted to check what your colour's actually going to look like in a shallow pour, you can usually kind of, you know, lift your stick up out of the cup and check that colour against your stick essentially. But you can see here I'm actually using a coloured stick, so it's not really helpful. So I'm just going to grab a piece of kitchen roll and just dab a little bit of that resin on, and you can see that it's really pale still. So I'm just going to keep adding drops, stirring it, and just going back and forth and keep checking, just adding a little bit by bit. Try not to be tempted to kind of throw a load of colour in there straight away. Once it's in there, you can't take it out, so you know you do run the risk of making it too dark for what you actually want. So it's better to just put little by little in, keep stirring it and checking it as you go. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep going back and forth with that alcohol ink, giving it a good stir in between and making sure that I'm checking it on that piece of kitchen roll. And once I'm happy, I'll pop it aside and I'll move on to the next colour. So we're on to the metallic purple now. I have given this a really good shake. Make sure you do that, especially with your metallics like this is. So I'm just going to repeat the process. I'm going to put a little bit in at a time, give it a stir, check it on my piece of kitchen roll, and just keep building it up until I get the colour that I want. So I'm just jumping in here just to show my stick. So I'm using a wooden stick here. Now, I reuse my sticks, so once I've used them, I'll give them a wipe with some kitchen roll. I don't use alcohol because I kind of want a kind of layer of resin on that stick that'll cure, and it kind of seals the wood. Now, stupidly, I picked up a wooden stick here that I hadn't previously sealed, so you can see how much of the pigment it's absorbing into that wood. It's a bit annoying. So yeah, if you can, especially with your metallics and things like that, if you can use kind of sealed wooden stick, it would be better, or a silicone stirring stick. I do struggle with this particular metallic ink. It keeps, every time I try and pour, it keeps kind of clogging in the little hole. So you'll see that I'm having to kind of grab a pin and kind of hole the hole. I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm grabbing a pin and just kind of trying to make that hole a little bigger, because I do find that those kind of metallic elements to it keep blocking that nib. So yeah, I'm having a bit of trouble with this alcohol ink. Anyway, so I'll keep doing this backwards and forwards, putting a little bit in at a time, stirring, checking it on my kitchen roll, just like I did with the green one, until I'm happy with how the colour is looking. Right, we're on to the purple flakes now. So this is just a case of me getting some of these purple flakes into this resin and getting them mixed up. I love these kind of foil flakes in resin. I think they look so nice. But I personally just find them such a nightmare to work with. I just find that they're always really static. They stick to the side of the cup. I couldn't even get them to come out of the tub in the first place. Yeah, I remember now doing this voiceover and looking back at this, I feel like I was having a mare on this particular day. My metallic ink wasn't behaving. The flakes weren't behaving. Just absolute nightmare. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to keep putting more and more flakes in there just until I'm happy with kind of just the consistency and how many there is in there. I think here I'm getting my, I'm still fighting with it. So now I'm thinking I'll get my tweezers, I'll pop it in there. And I think as I'm putting it in there, it's still kind of just instantly just like it just flies out of the tweezers and just wants to hit the side of the cup. Anyway, so I'll keep stirring this up and I'll come back once this is ready. Okay, so these are all done now. They've been through the bubble machine. So I'm ready to just start cracking on and getting pouring. So I'm going to do the usual. I'm going to spritz with my 99.9% alcohol, just to make sure that I'm reducing any chances of those nasty air pockets. So I'm going to start with the green here. But of course I don't want it to run up too much into those butterflies, because they're going to be the purple. So it's really going to be this dance, if you like, of a little bit of green, a little bit of purple, a little bit of green, and just hoping that I can kind of get that blend, if you like, between the two colours right. So you can start to see that green is just starting to make its way up to the butterflies. Now it's going to be fine, because when I do put the purple in, that purple will then kind of push that green back down again. So as I say, it's very much kind of this dance of to and fro between your colours. I'm really trying not to pour too fast here, and just giving the resin time to run into all of those different areas. I don't want it to end up really overflowing over those tiny little pieces. At the same time though, I don't want to be too slow, because I don't want that green to be able to run up too much into the butterfly. So yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge, this one, but I think it was worth it in the end, personally. Let's see what you think. So I'll just put you on a little bit of a fast forward, where you can just kind of see that I'm doing this kind of, back and forth between the colours, essentially. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the base now. So I've got my purple flakes here. I'm just giving them a very slow stir. I don't want to stir any more bubbles into this. So we're just going to start with pouring this around the edges of the petals. you might remember, I wanted the edges to be this clear with the purple flakes, and then the middle will be the green. So once I've poured around these edges, I'll then go ahead and move in with the green and hopefully get a nice blend between the green and this clear, but with still, you know, a good definition there between the two. I don't want them to completely blend. And essentially it's going to be a case of this dance, for want of a better way of explaining it, between the two colours, and just kind of controlling that, because they'll kind of push against each other, the resin, and it's just a case of going backwards and forwards until you're happy with how it's looking and kind of the ratio between the two colours. And yeah, just patience is ultimately what it comes down to. So I'm going back in now to kind of the bottom part again. So because the resin's had time now to kind of really self-level everywhere, I'm now more confident about going in, because I really want to try and dome this. You can imagine all these different pieces, all these different tiny little sections. The trimming could potentially be quite challenging, so I really want to make sure that I kind of dome this as best that I can. When you dome your pieces, it reduces and avoids kind of those sharp edges. Afterwards, you kind of have to file down and all of that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I'm just going back in again with my purple and green and just getting everything domed. So I'll come back once everything's filled up. So this is all filled up now, the way I want it. So I'm just going in with this silicone tool now and cleaning up around the edges. It's a lot easier to do this now rather than wait for it to cure and then try and have to cut off or file down, sand down, you know, any of these kind of slight overpour areas. So yeah, it's definitely easier to do this now. Okay, so I've made a right mess, but it's done now, so I'll be back once this is all cured. Okay, so this has completely cured now. So this was a few days later, because when I started to demold this initially, it was way too bendy. So I kind of just thought, oh no. So I just kind of laid everything back in the mold just to make sure that it did go kind of completely hard in the right shape. So yeah, this is the base. I really love how this turned out. I really love how the green kind of blended into that clear, but there's still that defined clear edge with those purple flakes. I think it looks really nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip this around and get the rest of this out. It's a little bit tricky, this one, because of all those little details in the butterfly wings. I'm just being really careful not to tear my mold here. So it was fairly easy to demold, just a case of being careful. And then popping these little rings out. So I'm really liking how this turned out. I think it looks so pretty, and those butterflies are so beautiful in that metallic purple. I just think it's really lovely. And I really like as well that this centerpiece here, it kind of separates from the base and you can just click it in place. I think that's really handy. Just kind of when, if you ever wanted to store this or anything like that at some point. So yeah, I think I'm just figuring out here kind of, is there a certain way that you have to do this, or can it go in anyway? So yeah, you can see that it just clicks in really nice and easy there. I found that these rings kind of around the edge and around the kind of inner circle, they add a little bit of a sharp edge. I mustn't have domed these enough, or perhaps had a little bit of kind of overage that I didn't see. So yeah, I'm just going around with the deburring tool and just getting off those super sharp edges before I kind of glue them in place, essentially. I just took my phone off its mount just so I could show this better, better angle, hopefully. I think it turned out really lovely. I really love it. So the mould didn't come. You'll see that I've kind of got that kind of tubular vase, if you like, between the rings. It just so happened I have a bunch of these for another mould, and they seem to fit in those rings perfectly. So I decided to put one of those in there because I think it looks really nice. You could use this as a little budding vase, maybe even a reed diffuser. I just really like it. I really like how it turned out. Yeah, I definitely like this mould. I think it looks really, really nice. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, you found it useful, and stick around for the photos at the end. Okay, bye!